Traditional retirement is dead, and if you're watching this video, you probably already feel it. Only 35% of non-retirees say their retirement savings are on track. And that's not my opinion, that's from a 2024 Federal Reserve report, which means nearly 2 out of 3 people know that they're going to have a tough time in retirement, or not be able to retire at all. I'm one of them. I've told you that before. I'm 61, I don't have much of a 401k, and selling off all of my belongings isn't going to make much of a difference. But here's what 25 years of working for myself and watching this economy leave good people behind has taught me. You don't need an employer to earn a living. In this video, I'm going to show you the numbers that prove that traditional retirement is dead and the new model that's replacing it. I'm Eric. I'm a mechanical engineer, product designer, and longtime business owner. Not a financial advisor, so if you need financial planning advice, you need to find someone who's qualified at that. But here's what I am. I'm someone who left the corporate world over 25 years ago and has been navigating self-employment ever since. I've seen the economy shift. I've seen friends laid off within sight of their planned retirement, and I've lived long enough to know that even when you do a lot of things right, the old picture of retirement is getting harder and harder to count on. For a lot of us, this is no longer a conversation about retiring comfortably. It's a conversation about survival. And I think that's why this topic hits so hard. Because a lot of people did what they were told to do. They worked, they were responsible, they paid their bills, they even managed to save a little. They assumed that if they were disciplined enough, the traditional retirement model would eventually be their reward. But life doesn't move in a straight line. Businesses slow down, like mine has, or they fail entirely. Employers right-size their workforces. Medical emergencies show up without warning. Divorces, they can devastate families. And the cost of everything keeps climbing. Well, let me ask you something. How many of those have hit you? Because for most people I talk to, it's not just one, it's 2 or 3 stacked on top of each other. And for a lot of people in their 50s, there's another problem layered on top of all of that. Ageism. You lose your job before you plan to stop working and then find out that the job market is a lot less welcoming than you expected. You're not ready to retire, but employers aren't exactly fighting to hire you either. Research shows that 74% of older adults considering a job change believe that their age will be a barrier to getting hired. And that's not a small number. I mean, that's 3 out of 4 people who already feel the deck is stacked against them before they even apply. Suddenly that old retirement picture starts to look less like a plan and more like a fairy tale people were told. I mean, that's the shift. So let's look at exactly where the old model breaks down, because it changes how you think about the solution. The old model depended on a few things being true at the same time. Stable long-term employment, benefits that included a pension, not just a few days off and discounted health insurance, affordable housing and health care, enough leftover income to save some every month, and retirement income sources that could realistically carry you. That world is mostly gone. I already mentioned the Federal Reserve number. Only 35% of non-retirees feel that their savings are on track. And when people are under the kind of financial pressure that we often experience today, retirement savings are often the first thing they cut. Contributions get reduced. Accounts get cashed out early. People aren't building toward the future. They're trying to survive the present. Now, if the old model were still holding up in other areas, if Social Security or pensions could close the gap, maybe this wouldn't be a crisis. But that's not what the numbers say. Social Security was never supposed to be your full retirement plan, and you can't start receiving benefits until you reach 62 years old anyhow. I mean, that's not my opinion. That's straight from the people who run it. Their own publications say it was never meant to be the only source of income in retirement. And it's not unemployment insurance. Even if you are old enough to collect, the numbers make the gap obvious. For a medium wage earner, starting benefits at full retirement age in 2026, Social Security replaces about 43% of their pre-retirement income. Most financial advisors estimate you need 70 to 80% of pre-retirement income in retirement. So even in a best case scenario, Social Security gets you roughly half of what you need. And that's before increases in health insurance premiums, utilities, or even medical issues enter the picture. So what's supposed to close that gap? Today, it's supposed to be your 401k retirement savings. In the past, the answer was a pension. And while some people still talk about pensions like they're common, they're not. And if you're under 50, you might not even know anyone who has one. As of last year, 70% of private workers had access to a 401k type plan, but only 14% had access to a traditional pension. You know what most people think of when they use that term. The old model assumed someone else was sharing the burden, an employer or a union. The new reality pushes almost all of that burden onto you. You save it, you invest it, you manage the risk, and you hope nothing interrupts that plan. That's not the same deal, and it's obviously not working for many people. Social Security covers about half of what you need. Pensions are gone for most people, and personal retirement savings? We already saw the numbers. 2/3 of people know they're behind. So where does the rest come from? If you're thinking, well, at least I can keep working a few more years to close the gap, I wish it were that simple for everyone. Here's another uncomfortable truth. A lot of people assume retirement is a choice. You hit a certain age, you pick a date, you relax and do all the things you held off doing because you were too busy working. But 42% of retirees say health problems, caring for family members, or lack of work contributed to the timing of their retirement. That means for nearly half of retirees, it wasn't a clean, planned transition. It was forced. It was scary. And it showed up earlier than expected. And often it arrived before there was enough money saved. A friend of mine, smart guy, clever engineer, he was, I think, 55 when his employer decided he was no longer a good fit. He applied everywhere. He kept hearing he was overqualified, or he just heard nothing at all. He wasn't ready to retire, but the market decided for him. And he's not an outlier. Remember that number? 74% of older adults believe their age will be a barrier. So when people say, just work a few more years, that's easier said than done. It ignores the fact that plenty of people in their 50s are willing to work and still can't get hired. Which means you can't count on retiring on your terms, and waiting until you're unemployed or unemployable before making plans isn't a good idea. So what's the alternative? Well, all right, this is the part that matters most. Because if the old model is broken, you need something to replace it. Not a get-rich-quick scheme or a winning lottery ticket, although that would be nice. You need something of your own. The new model is this. You build additional income before you need it. You stop thinking your employer will be loyal to you until you're ready to retire, and you start thinking in terms of creating options now. Think about it this way. You've spent decades building skills and knowledge in something. Whether you were an engineer, like myself, a project manager, an accountant, a marketer, that expertise didn't disappear the day a company decided they didn't need you anymore. There are people and businesses right now that would pay you for what you know without hiring you full time. That's consulting or freelance work. And it's one of the fastest ways to start generating income on your own terms. Or maybe it's something smaller and more personal. A side business built around a skill that you already have. It doesn't have to be a tech startup with investors and employees. It could be a service that you offer locally, a product that you make, or something you're already good at that other people need. The bar to getting started is a lot lower than most people think. And then there's the digital side of things. If you know how to do something well enough that people ask you about it, and most of us do, you can package that into a course, a template, a guide, or an ebook. You create it once, and it can sell over and over again. That's not passive income in the do nothing and get rich sense, but it is income that isn't directly tied to trading your time for money. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that for me personally, a big part of this conversation includes YouTube and content creation. Not because I think everybody should become a YouTuber, and not because it's some magic machine that prints money. But here's why I think it deserves serious consideration, especially for people like us. YouTube rewards knowledge and experience over youth and trends. Whatever you've spent 20 or 30 years doing, there are people out there right now searching for that knowledge. And they'd rather learn it from someone who's actually done the work and learned the tips and tricks that only experience teaches. Your age isn't a liability. On YouTube, it's an advantage. And beyond YouTube specifically, building something online can give you work that's physically easier, with flexible hours and freedom of location, as well as income potential that isn't tied to an employer. You don't have to quit anything. You don't have to risk everything. You just have to start. Now, I know that hearing all of this can feel overwhelming. Where do you even begin? That's something that I work through with people one-on-one. If you want help figuring out which direction makes sense for your specific situation, there's a link in the description below. But whether you work with me or figure it out on your own, the important thing is that you start. Not someday, not when everything's perfect, now, while you still have time to build something on your terms. Because having more than one way to earn money is the closest thing to real security most of us will ever get. And that's the shift. The goal here is not retire and play golf, although I'm sure many people will wish it was. The goal is to reach a point where you have more control, more flexibility, and more than one way to make money, so that when life throws the next curveball, and it will, you've got options. That's the new retirement model, what some people are calling anti-retirement. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I read every single one, even if I don't manage to respond to every single one. And if you know someone in their 50s or older who's wrestling with this, send them this video. Sometimes it's just knowing you're not alone in this that changes everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.